Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight on the Saturday night bank holiday weekend. Hope you all had a fantastic day, enjoying the sunshine. And thank you for tuning into another epic podcast tonight. We are in good company with Northern Ireland International, Keith Gillespie joining us tonight. And following Keith over his industrious career and seeing what life is like now for Keith Gillespie. So please ping in your messages and your questions, and I will certainly do my utmost to get through as many as I can. It would just be at this stage, I would continue to thank the guys at the Longest 40. You're streaming this live over Scotland, Edinburgh and Glasgow tonight. Very thankful to the guys and continue to build the relationship that we have with the guys, and we just continue to thank them. So yeah, thank you again for tuning in. Keith will be joining us very, very soon. Just want to take this opportunity as well and just thank you all over from we launched this on Monday night. The encouragement has been really good for us, and we just continue to ultimately deliver a service that we bring in ex-footballers and get alongside them and ultimately get to know a little bit maybe about the person off the pitch as well. So, and again, for any of you who maybe want to see a certain individual on the show, email me. My email's along the bottom there, and I'll do my utmost to respond as quick as I can. So please don't be shy in getting your questions for Keith in the comment section below tonight, and I will do my utmost to get through as many as we can. In the Keith Gillespie. Evening, mate.
Hi, Brian. How's you? All good?
Not too bad. Not bad. How's you? All right, mate?
Yeah. Same old, isn't it?
Yeah. Sunshine today, mate?
Yeah. I mean, we've been quite fortunate with the weather, so hopefully it can continue for a bit.
Yeah. No doubt you had a wee barbecue today, mate, did you?
Yes, you knew that. So, yep. Just a wee quiet one. So, back home now.
Good. No, look, busy night tonight, mate. My phone's been peppering there over the last hour and a half. So I told you I would give you prime time, box office, 8 o'clock tonight, mate. So looking a good performance out of the night, bestie. So
that'll be a first.
Yeah, well, the one you did against Barcelona, I'm expecting big things tonight. So we'll get kicking on. But no, look, obviously, Keith, it is busy tonight. There's a lot to get through over the next 45 minutes. Grew up in a generation watching you, Keith. The career that you had was incredible. Played in some incredible games, and certainly for me over the last few years, I've been able to get to know Keith Gillespie, the person, and being introduced to you by a very good friend at a golf day in El Curry, and we talk about it regularly. But the one thing that's shown out about Keith Gillespie, the person, to me from a very early stage of that was the humility that you have, and almost the uncomfortableness of when you're reminded of the success that you had as a player, which ultimately is testament to the guy that you are.
Yeah, I think that all comes back to how you're brought up. I'd like to think that I was the same the day that I finished football as the day that I started playing football. Nothing ever changed in me. I was just a very fortunate sort of individual who managed to make it in the world of football. There's many people out there would have loved to have become professional footballers, and I look back on it, and I know obviously you have to have that bit of talent as well, but I think you have to have that little bit of luck along the way, and certainly I had that. And as I say, going back, I was brought up in the right way, and how to respect people and so on. So you go on about sort of getting uncomfortable about people talking about my career, and I look back and I'm I've great fondness for the times that I played for, Premiership football, international football, but I do get a little bit comfortable with it, because at the end of the day, I was doing my job. That was my job, to go out and perform and play football. And as I say, I was very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah. 16, Keith, obviously, Manchester United come knocking, and a host of other clubs you could have went to. Being a boyhood Manchester United fan, you could have went to Rangers. What had your eyes firmly fixed on a move to Manchester United?
Oh, without a doubt. Once Man United wanted to sign me, that was it. Brought up a Man United fan because my dad was a Man United fan, and you sort of just follow suit. So, going across to Man United as a 16-year-old was what I dreamed of. I signed when I was 13, and then I had the guaranteed apprenticeship when I was 16. So went across, and I suppose I was probably very lucky in that the time that I went over, because I was part of that class of '92 with the likes of Beckham and Scholes, Nicky Butt, Gary Neville, Ben Thorndike, Rob Savage is part of that side. Another couple of players, Chris Casper and John O'Kane, who had some injuries along the way, especially Chris and Ben. But it was a great side to be a part of, and we helped each other in terms of the progress that we made. And we were very close as a group in the changing room. And obviously you're looking back sort of 28 years ago or so now, and people still talk about that class of '92.
Yeah, man. And ultimately, Keith, the relationship that you had with Sir Alex, to this day is still quite strong. Obviously that was a massive, massive influence in terms of your development as a footballer and through life.
Oh, exactly. Went across as a 13-year-old to sign, and with my mum and dad, and we went out for a meal with Alex Ferguson the night before, and the first team were playing. So we had a meal with him, and the thing that struck you about Alex Ferguson first was that he just knew everything about you. He knew the name of your school, he knew the name of your sisters, he knew absolutely everything, and that was the way he liked to run things. He liked to know everything inside out. But he was fantastic, bringing us through. I think obviously he's seen that he had a good crop of players, and he wanted them to fast track them as quickly as possible. And as you've seen, the rest is history in terms of those players that stayed at Man United for the whole of their career. Your Scholes and your Neville, Gary Neville, and the likes of Ryan Giggs.
Yeah, we'll just break away there, Keith, a wee second. Alan is texting in tonight. Keith, what was your feelings when Sir Alex decided to include you in the Andy Cole deal and that you had to leave Manchester United? Was that difficult for you, being a Manchester United fan, or was the excitement of getting out and playing at a club like Newcastle, did that outweigh that?
I mean, first and foremost, the decision lay firmly with me. It was if I said no, the deal was off. So that decision lay with me. Unfortunately, that season, Andrei Kanchelskis was still at the club, who was a fantastic right winger, probably United's player of the season. So we got the January time, and I'd played a few games. I actually played the previous league game, and we travelled to a cup game in Sheffield, and I thought I might play again. Andrei was sick as well, so even more so thinking I might play him. But the European ruling with the Champions League at that stage was important to United, because you had that ruling at the time where you could only have 3 foreigners, and be it Scottish, Welsh, Irish, you were classified as a foreigner. So we had the likes of Mark Hughes and Roy Keane, Giggs. Then you add in Cantona and Micheal and Clayton Blackmore, Kanchelskis. You could only play 3 of those. So Man United were desperate to get an English centre forward. But when Alex Ferguson made the approach, to Newcastle, Kevin Keegan insisted that the only way that Andy Cole would be allowed to leave is if I went the other way. So it was nice to feel wanted in the way that Kevin Keegan wanted me. I'd played against Newcastle about 4 times that season and scored against them in the Premiership for Man United. So I'd done really well against them on every occasion. So that obviously stuck with Kevin Keegan. And I watched the game that night in Sheffield, and I came to Alex Ferguson after the game and said, "Yep, I'd like to go and speak to Newcastle." And spoke to Steve Bruce and Brian Robson, Brian McClare, and they said it'd be a great opportunity for me. So the rest of the team went back to Manchester. Myself and Alex Ferguson went to a hotel in Sheffield and met up with Kevin Keegan and a couple of directors, and we thrashed out the deal, and I was away the next day. So it's incredible how quickly things can sort of just change in football, because here I was travelling to Bramall Lane on a Tuesday night, thinking I'm going to play, and by the end of that game, I'm talking about leaving the club. So it was crazy how quickly it happened. But I was very fortunate. I was going to a big club in Newcastle.
Yeah, and obviously we had Lee Clark on the show last night, Keith, and he talked very fondly of the squad they just had and the intensity that they trained with. And you go to Newcastle, and we talk regularly about it. And the one thing you said to me, I was okay, but when I dropped the shoulder, it was decent. And I know we laugh at that, but the amount of top centre forwards that fed over the years by your deliveries, that was massive.
Yeah, you always need centre forwards in the middle who's going to get on the end of things. And certainly when I played at Newcastle and I was a regular there, You've got Les Ferdinand, and you've got Alan Shearer. You know, two of the best that we've ever seen in the Premiership, and you know they thrive in crosses. You know, and we played 4-4-2 with Ginola left, myself right, and 4-4-2 was the style of football that everyone liked to watch because it was exciting football. Because you got, you know, it was old style football. You got the ball wide, the winger done their business and got the ball in the middle, and you know, our centre forwards got in the end of it, and it's something that's probably a bit of a dying art now because we don't really see many wingers in the game, or you know, players, you know, maybe dropping the shoulder and getting crosses in. And you know, as I say, that was my job to provide to you know, top strikers like that.
Yeah. Matthew McGaw has texted in. He says, "Love the book, Bestie. Great reading stories. Lass. So toon army. So yeah, very good. Thank you for that, Matthew. And just on that, Bestie, obviously the book has got incredible plaudits. You know, I think it's just down to your downright honesty in it. You know what I mean? You're quite open about it. You're quite open about the struggles that you had, because that's one thing as a footballer. You know, on the pitch things can go well, but off it things just don't go well sometimes, and it's how you deal with that mentally. And you've been very open in the book, and even to this day, you know, there's still a lot of people want to get their hands on a copy.
Well, exactly. I think when we started to write the book, we wanted just total honesty out there, and I think with that you get a lot more credibility. The reviews that I've had on the book has been absolutely fantastic. So I think it's been out about maybe 7 years now this year. So I haven't actually read it myself. I've heard it's a good read, but you know, as I say, it's great in terms of when things are going well on the pitch, but sometimes, you know, people don't realise the struggles that you can have off the pitch, because, you know, with you know, men in general and just footballers, you know, you like to be a little bit private with things, and that's what happens. You keep things to yourself, and in the end, you need the right people around you to help you get through, you know, certain situations.
Yeah, and obviously, Keith, you know, the team that you know were blessed to be a part of at Newcastle, you know, some top players, but you had a massive input in that squad in the '96. You know, the team that nearly won the league, and you know, to the point that Gary Lineker made a comment that because you maybe didn't play as much near the end of that probably had that the reason Newcastle United did not win the league, because you were left out of the team.
Yeah, you know, I had a fantastic sort of first 6 months that season. I got injured around Christmas time at Old Trafford, and I was out for 5 or 6 weeks, and then, you know, I probably came back too early, and you know, I didn't really get back to how I was playing previous to that. But we also brought in Tino Asprilla, and who's a fantastic, you know, centre forward, and we paid 7.5 million for him. And you know, when you pay that sort of money, you know, he's going to go straight into the team. I was, you know, probably I was the youngest player in that sort of starting 11 every week, and you know, I think it was probably easy for me for Kevin Keegan to maybe drop me, because you know, he knew that I wouldn't have been a one to go banging on his door and kicking up a fuss. And he moved Peter Beardsley to right wing. You know, Peter Beardsley was an absolutely unbelievable player, absolutely superb. But Peter himself knows he wasn't a right winger. You know, so going from a 4-4-2, where I was sort of going down the line and getting balls in the box, you know, Peter was a very different player. But Kevin, you know, made this decision, and I sort of missed out. And you know, I did get back in towards the end of the season, but by then Man United had sort of caught us, and you know, they were top of the league and obviously went on to win it. So it was disappointing end of the season because of how we'd done previous to that. You know, you can say the league table never lies, and you know, probably true, but on that current season, I personally think it did. I'm maybe a little bit biased, but I think because of the style of football that we played, everyone remembers. You know, if you said who came second in the league 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you know, you'd be scratching your head. But the one thing everyone always remembers is that Newcastle side back in 1995, 96.
Gail Graham is texted in just in case. Fantastic book, best autobiography I have read. So thank you,
Thanks,
Gail, for
Gail.
that. Well, we'll take this one. Actually, Greg, no, actually, thank you for your text tonight. Just on Newcastle, Keith, what do you make of the takeover at Newcastle and your time in the toon?
Yeah, hopefully the takeover happens. You know, we've had so many sort of false promises over the years, with the club being sold, and you know, I know I Mike Ashley came in when he did, and you know, stabilized the club. You know, the club was running well then, but the fans deserve success up there. They crave success. It's a fantastic place to live, fantastic people, and they aren't just happy with surviving in the Premiership. They want to be up there challenging. And certainly, if this takeover happens, you only have to look at what happened to Man City when the takeover happened there, how they have gone to be one of the biggest clubs in terms of the riches that they have, in Europe. And Newcastle has got the potential to do that. So fingers crossed that everything is going in the right direction with that. My time at Newcastle, I absolutely loved it. It was my favourite time of my whole career. Kevin Keegan was a big part of that. The 2 years that I worked under him was absolutely incredible. A manager that you would have run through a brick wall for, and every player at the club loved working under him, and was devastated when he did leave, because he's the type of manager that you would have worked under forever.
Yeah, and ultimately, Keith, I suppose testimony to the mark that you left on a lot of Newcastle fans, that you're still in quite a bit, doing a lot of stuff at Newcastle and match days and events in around St James's Park and stuff, which obviously means a lot to you when you go over there, and you still keep in touch with a lot of the players, Tino and boys like that. So it obviously holds a special place in your heart, Newcastle United.
It does. It's a fantastic city. Anybody who's ever been there will know that, and everybody knows how passionate the fans are, how much they want success, and even when you look at they get relegated to the Championship, and you're still getting sellouts, 52,000 every week. Some clubs get relegated from the Premiership, yeah, and can't fill their stadium. Newcastle, that'll never happen to, because of the fan base that they've got, and that's why with this takeover, if this happens, the club could just go anywhere at once.
Yeah. Staying on Newcastle, Keith, Luke O'Doherty is texting in. Thank you, Luke, tonight, texting in this bank holiday weekend. Keith, what was it like winning against Barcelona at St James's Park in the Champions League?
Yeah, it was the most memorable game that I can remember in terms of an individual performance. We come second in the league, obviously 95-96, but that didn't get you into the Champions League. So the following year we came second again, and we had to go through a playoff game against Partizan Belgrade, which was a really tough game, and we won in the last minute of extra time in the second leg out there to get us into the Champions League. And then you're waiting for the draw, and you draw Dynamo Kiev, you have PSV Eindhoven and Barcelona in your group, and then lo and behold, the first game is Barcelona at home. You couldn't wish for a bigger game, and going out that very first time and hearing that Champions League music is something that will sort of stay with you forever. The atmosphere just that night was absolutely incredible, and Tino Asprilla was absolutely on fire. Played centre forward that night pretty much on his own, and I was fortunate to put a couple of balls into the middle, and he got on the end of them. And we're 3-0 up, and you're looking at these Barcelona players, and you've got Louis van Gaal as manager, and Rivaldo and Figo, players like that there, and here we are 3-0 up against them. And I know they came back and scored 2 late goals, but it was a night that when I go back to Newcastle, everybody always reminds me of, and it's nice that here we are, sort of 20, I think it was 23 years ago, that the fans are still talking about it.
Yeah. Davy Dawson is texting, Keith, how easy was it to find that head of Shearer's? You made it look easy.
I wouldn't say that. At times, as you mentioned before, Brian, I was all about drop the shoulder, and because I was quick, I was quicker than most fullbacks. So if I got up close to them, that's what I did. And there was no real skill involved there. I like to drop the shoulder and sort of just try and bend the ball in. And when you got people like Shearer in there, that makes your job very easy. He's a natural finisher. 260 Premiership goals shows that. Absolutely fantastic player to play with. Very, very strong physically. Holding the ball up, bringing players into the game, and all he wanted to do, he wanted to get the ball as wide as possible, as quickly as possible, and get into the middle. And it was up to me then to try and provide him with the right ammunition.
Keith, Stevie Coulter's texting, Keith, if you could go back and play one game again, which game and why?
Gosh, that's a difficult one. Obviously, you had that 95-96 season where we'd done so well, and then results go against us towards the end. I wasn't involved in. We played Man United in the 95-96 season, March time, and we were 4 points clear in the league, and if we won that game, we went 7 points clear, and we absolutely murdered them that night. I was on the bench, but going back to a game where I was sort of still involved in, that would be the one, because I think if we had won that game, the momentum, Man United had the momentum at that stage, 4 points ahead. They won that game and it went to 1 point. Peter Schmeichel got man of the match that night and was absolutely sensational. Cantona scored at the back post, and people will remember the goal. But if we'd have gone on to win that game, I've no doubt that I'd be sitting here, with a Premiership winners medal, and unfortunately, it wasn't to be.
Yeah. Keith, we'll just take you to obviously an international football, and incredible international career. You had 86 caps for Northern Ireland, and I know how much it meant to you to pull on that green shirt. Obviously, did you think that possibly you could have maybe obtained more caps, or was that slightly taken away from you a little bit?
Yeah, I feel it might have been towards the end. There was quite a few games over the years where, maybe missed a few injured, a few suspended at times. But the one thing that I always did was make myself available. And there was a period with Northern Ireland where players, there was so many pullouts of squads. And I remember even Lawrie Sanchez left me out of a squad, and I was playing Premiership football at the time, and we weren't blessed with that many Premiership footballers, so I was a little bit disappointed. I was on the standby list, and I'd never ever been on a standby list since I started playing. I rang him up, and he just explained to me, he says, "You're not in the squad," and I was devastated by it, but it was Azerbaijan away, and lo and behold, there was quite a few pullouts, and I got called into the squad, and I was on the bench, and I came on a sub after 8 minutes, and I played right wing back that night, and every game after that I played under Lawrie Sanchez. And I think we did clash at times, me and Lawrie, but the one thing that we had then for each other was a lot of respect, and our relationship at the end was really good. I respected what he did for Northern Ireland. I think he did a fantastic job, but obviously he leaves and Nigel Worthington comes in. I know I'd made the move back to Glentoran, and I was still playing for Northern Ireland, but I hadn't been in the previous squad because I was out of contract at my club, and Nigel Worthington rang me when I signed for Glentoran, and he sort of asked me would I announce my retirement, because he was getting questions from the media, would I be back in the squad, and bear in mind this was at a time where he was picking players from the Irish League, and I was still fit enough, and I still thought I could be a part of a squad, maybe not playing all the time, but still nice to have myself there as an experienced head. But that was one thing that I was not happy with, in terms of him coming to me and asking me to announce retirement, because when we did have the whole thing with Neil Lennon, and Neil Lennon obviously retired from international football, obviously for very different reasons, and I was asked by a journalist would I ever consider retiring when the time's right, and I always said no. I would more or less let it retire me. So for Nigel Worthington to ask me to do that and pretty much do his job for him, if he's not going to involve me, just say he's not going to be involved. Don't come to me and say, I want you to announce your retirement, because it's something that I said I would never ever do. So I feel a little bit disappointed with the way that he went about that.
Yeah, well, certainly the Green and White Army have fond memories of you, Keith, in a Northern Ireland shirt, and certainly you've left many happy Northern Ireland fans there with some incredible memories. So be encouraged on that. Just on the Northern Ireland one, Grant Chadwick has texted in, Keith, who do you think should be the next Northern Ireland manager, and can the next manager do even better than where Michael O'Neill has brought them to date?
Well, certainly it's going to be difficult to replace Michael from the job that he done. And you look back to Michael's sort of first 18 months in charge, and things weren't going right. And fair play to the AFA, because they stuck by him. They could see the project that he had, and he wanted to adopt, and we've seen how great that turned out to be. You look at sort of names mentioned. Obviously, you have Stephen Robinson at Motherwell, who's done absolutely fantastic. Tommy Wright's done a great job at Motherwell over the years. And even Ian Barraclough as the under-21 manager, he knows the setup, and he's done an amazing job with the under-21s. It was only last year, the year before, they were beating Spain. And that's, at the time when I started playing for Northern Ireland, we didn't have an under-21 side. You're sort of pretty much fast-tracked into the full squad. So he's done an amazing job there. So I'd say probably those are the three main people. But it's probably a very attractive job for somebody now. Whereas a few years ago it might not have been that way, and especially you're one game away, two games. Obviously, if they were to beat Bosnia, and then the following playoff game, they're two games away from a major finals, and it's a great job for somebody to walk into and become an absolute hero.
Yeah, and also probably a pressure cooker as well, because of the level of where Micheal has brought them. There's now a level of expectation. Northern Ireland fans expect now almost, the achieve.
Well, exactly. From the success of 2016, and we're very unfortunate with 2018. With the playoff game against Switzerland, we were fantastic the second leg, and obviously we went out to a penalty kick that should never have been. So that was disappointing. But Northern Ireland, as you say, fans have come to expect this. But the one thing with Northern Ireland over the years is because we're such a small country, it's very difficult to maintain that level, year in, year out, because we can't produce players like England do. So that's very difficult. But the one thing with Micheal, what he stamped out is the stupid results that we used to get. I used to play in a lot of games, and we go back and we beat England in 2005. We beat Spain in 2006. We'd then go to Luxembourg and lose, or go to Azerbaijan and lose, and that's something which Micheal stamped out, the stupid results, and obviously we gained a lot of great results, throughout Michael's tenure.
Matty Laren, thanks for your text tonight. Gillespie, still one of my Northern Ireland heroes, even though he went to the Glens. So, but there's a compliment. There's a compliment in there, mate. Very much so. Moving on to that one there, Keith. Obviously, in terms of we're life now for Keith Gillespie. You're obviously involved in the agency world, and as we both know, that's incredibly challenging. Was that something that you felt, that you had a hunger and always were intrigued by that side of the getting involved in the game, or and how do you find it now that you're in it, having been a player?
I wouldn't say it's something that I ever envisaged was going to happen. The opportunity came up, and obviously when opportunities come up, you sort of think about it and you weigh it up, and you think, well, yeah. I obviously played the game at a high level for many years, and I had an agent myself who looked after me, and I understand as a player what I expect from an agent, how he is going to treat me. So you can bring that into the role. I think it's important that you have that trust with players, and that's something that I had with, I had a couple of agents over the years, but the one that I ended up with for the majority of my time, I had full trust with, and that is so important, because the industry is there's so many sort of cowboys out there who just want to make a quick buck, and they don't look after the well-being of the player first. And as we both know, what we want to do is build that relationship where you're pretty much friends with the player, and they're not scared to ring you up and ask for advice. And obviously, because I've had the career that I've had, and I've had ups, I've had downs, I think I'm pretty qualified to give good advice in terms of young players who want to progress in the game and know the rights and know the wrongs. So it is a challenging industry. There's no doubt about that. But as you know, we're both very passionate about it, and we both get a real sense of satisfaction when we see a player that we look after and they're doing well, and they're making great strides. So hopefully that can continue for many years.
There's been managed a cup of tea bought over the last few years, mate. Alan Weir's texting. Alan, how you doing Saturday night here, mate? Thanks for your text. Being a Manchester United fan, did you feel when you played for Newcastle that you struggled to give 100% when you played against Manchester United?
Oh gosh, no, definitely not. The first time I played against Man United after I left the club, I lasted sort of I think it was about 15 minutes, and I got injured. The second time that season, I didn't play. That was the season where we nearly won the league, and obviously very disappointing. But I certainly I played against Man United for Blackburn and scored against them. I played against Man United for Sheffield United and scored. So it doesn't matter that you're a Man United club. It's amazing. It's amazing that being a Man United fan. And after I left Man United, I left on the Wednesday. The following game was Man United Newcastle at St James's Park, and it was agreed that myself and Andy Cole couldn't play in that game. But I watched the game and I was on the bench, and I remember Man United had gone 1-0 up. Mark Hughes had scored, and I remember Paul Kitson scored, and I'm jumping off the bench cheering. And I was a Man United fan from as a kid, and here I am. I've gone to Newcastle 4 days later. I'm cheering against Man United for the first time in my life. So it's very easy once you leave a club to go to a new club. You want to do the best for yourself, obviously, and the best for the club. But it's very important to have that relationship with the fans. And I was very lucky to have a great relationship with Newcastle fans who liked the style of football that I played, because when I went there they probably didn't know an awful lot about me, so it was very important for me when I went there to hit the ground running, and as I say, I was lucky to do that.
Tracey Young, thanks for your text tonight. The best goal ever seen at AFC Portchester was by Keith Gillespie in the Lee Rigby Memorial Cup. Bit special.
I was raging there was no cameras there, actually, because it was right in the stanchion, so it was on the half volley. So actually, it was playing in a game with Lee Rigby Select, and I took it off Michael Moles' toes and rifled it into the top corner, and I was absolutely devastated that there was no cameras there to get it.
And obviously at the minute, you still enjoy pulling the copas on, you still enjoy getting on the grass again, and obviously you keep yourself in a bit of shape too. So you still have a passion to play still when you can. With it, I know obviously that you travel, with Manchester United legends and back and forward with that.
Yeah, they're great trips, because you get to see players that you haven't seen in a while, and we've just come back from Singapore there last November. Great trip, where we've been quite a few times. We've been to China, we've been into Indonesia, we've been to Hong Kong. So we've been in and around Malaysia as well, in and around the Far East, and it's great, to still be able to see those places, because you only had that sort of privilege when you were playing, and we're still, lucky. I'm very lucky that I was affiliated to Man United, where I get these invites to go and play, and they're really enjoyable, getting to see the boys and having a good laugh, and as you say, pulling on the boots again.
Yeah. Gareth Bronte, thanks for your text. Keith, do you think if Shearer had have gone to Manchester United, they would have been even more dominant over that period of time?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. He's the best striker that the Premiership's seen, and his goals prove that. As I say, he's an absolute battering ram, and he was so hungry for success. But obviously, going to Newcastle, his hometown, wanting to wear that number 9, had that big draw. But certainly, if he'd have gone to Man United, you'd have just seen how big they would have. They were dominant anywhere, but with the service he'd have been getting from the likes of Beckham there, he'd have probably scored a bucket load more goals.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm glad he didn't go, tell you the truth. Gareth Clement, thanks again for texting tonight. Keith, have you any aspirations to go into coaching or managing? Was that not something that ever really ticked your box? Are you happy with your media and your agency work at the minute?
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's something where when you finish playing, it's like, what do I do next? And I started doing the badges 10 years ago it was, and I just felt as it wasn't for me. I think to be a manager, you have to have that ruthless streak. It's very difficult to leave players out and have a real go at them at times. I just feel as if that's not for me. And obviously with the agency work and the media work that I do, I'm enjoying that. So it's something which hopefully can continue for quite a while. But at first I did think, well, it's the natural step, coaching, management, whatever. But I just sort of realised that it just wasn't for me.
Gareth Owens, Keith, if you could go back in time and give your start at Manchester United self one bit of advice, what would it be?
Probably stay out of the bookies. that was a tough time in terms of the addiction, how it happened with going into the bookies quite a lot, and obviously I was still a very young lad, and you leave home at 16 and you're still very naive with things, but unfortunately, I didn't learn too much because I still continued it throughout my career. So it's important to find that right balance of football and other things to do. And I think gambling in football is just it's a way of life, because there's you always have that dressing room where there's three or four used to be sitting with a racing post. There's on a coach there's three or four playing cards. There's boys reading, there's boys sleeping, there's boys playing video games. So every dressing room has that. So it's just something that is in your makeup, and that was in mine. So I'd probably say that would be the biggest advice I'd give myself.
Yeah, and obviously, Keith, now where you are in life, and obviously you're in a good place. You know what I mean. With three kids, and you're back and forth tirelessly with the girls and stuff, and your little boy over here. Keith Gillespie. He's a contented guy.
Oh, exactly. It's obviously been very tough this period because of the girls are obviously in England, so I'm thankful for FaceTime. Little boys in Bangor, so I haven't been able to see him either. With the social distancing and house to house. So that is tough, but you just got to sort of say to yourself, look, this isn't going to be forever. Just abide by the rules, and hopefully, everyone can come out of this, in with good positive, vibes out of, with some adversity at times. You have to go through it to see the positives, and hopefully a lot of people can do that. But yep, I would say I'm contented in life, and just looking forward to the stuff that I do, the media, the agency stuff, and hopefully it can continue.
Yep. Andrea Sweetlove, thanks for your text tonight. Keith, how many red cards have you got in your career? Do you remember we saw one in Malta 2005? It was great to watch you play.
How many red cards? Well, I know I've got the quickest in the Premiership history, which was 12 seconds. So there's a bit of history there. But I don't know whether it's about 8 or 9. So it's actually more than probably most people think. There is probably about 8 or 9. And I know the one Andrea's talking about, because I got sent off away in Malta. And I actually didn't do anything wrong. The guy had I was in somebody's face and the guy was in my face, but I felt this punch come round, and it was somebody from behind that punched me in the side of the face. But Mike Riley was the referee, because it was a friendly game, and he quickly reached for the red card for both of us. So the first thing that I thought of then was our next game was going to, because it was a straight red, our next two games were Azerbaijan at home and England at home, and I thought, I'm going to be suspended for it here. But fortunately for me, because it was a friendly, I was only suspended for the next friendly. So I was fortunate enough then to be able to play that night against England, obviously back in 2005.
If the takeover at Newcastle happens, Keith, would you like to see Rafa back or Pochettino, or would you keep Steve Bruce? Thank you, Luke O'Doherty, for texting tonight.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've been asked this, before with the takeover. And I suppose a lot of Newcastle fans will disagree, but Steve Bruce has done a really good job this season. There's no doubt in that, and I think he deserves that chance with a little bit of money. A lot of Newcastle fans would disagree because they weren't happy with Steve Bruce getting the job in the first place. But I know Steve Bruce is wise enough to know that new owners might come in and they just might see a new vision, new manager. They might, want to completely change things. But Newcastle fans probably thought they would be in a relegation battle all season. And with the squad that he has, I think he's done really well. So I'd like him to be given a chance. But as I say, he knows himself that things can happen where, these big rich owners come in and they want this big name coming in, as an established manager who has won things before. So there's obviously plenty of people out there, so he knows that that can happen in football. But personally, I would like to see him given a chance, because he's a Geordie boy. It's his dream to manage Newcastle, and if he's got some finances, who knows who he can attract.
Yeah, of course, no, very much so. Dave texted in tonight. Obviously, you and Shear were very formed a formidable partnership on the pitch. What happened in Dublin that night?
Yeah, it was just one of those. We didn't even get the night time; it was afternoon still. It was one of those days where we were we had gone to Dublin, and it was a few days bonding. We had a bit too much drink taken on board, and I ended up in a bit of a scrap with him, and I came off second best. But I spent the evening in hospital. But the one thing that people maybe don't realize is there was never ever any problem with Alan and I, and there never has been ever since. And I go to a golfing trip where Alan's we play footballers, cricketers every year out in Portugal. Alan captains the footballers, and I go every year now, and he's a great lad. He's a great lad to be about because because he comes across very sensible on you see him on TV and on the media. He's actually a very funny guy, very down to earth, and likes a bit of banter. So he's a great lad. But that was just one of those days where maybe a little bit too much alcohol consumed.
And obviously, Keith, you know what I mean. You do a lot of golfing and stuff, and being amongst the old players, and the banter must be incredible when you do all get away on those trips and reminiscing of great nights like Barcelona and just because they were great nights for Newcastle fans. They really were.
Oh, they're incredible times. It's because of Newcastle. Since that time, they've had good periods, really good periods under Bobby Robson, who done well in the Champions League and was loved up there. But the period of sort of 95, 96 season is one that Newcastle fans will never ever forget. And they're always asking and always talking about will we see these times again? And I think the only chance that they have of seeing that is if somebody comes in and makes a proper offer, which hopefully is happening and takes the club on and takes them to a new level, because it's a club that I love. I love being back there. I love the city. As I mentioned before, it's the most enjoyable period that I enjoyed that I had in my career, and I was around great players and great people.
Yeah. Clark texts in tonight. Obviously, Keith, you've played with some incredible talent, international level, club level. Who for you has been the best player that you've played at club level and at an international level?
Club level, it's really difficult because I sort of take the class of '92. Those players, Paul Scholes for me was the best in that group. I pretty much take him for granted. Because I grew up with him. Absolutely incredible player. You go to Newcastle and you have people like Ferdinand and Ginola and Shearer. Beardsley was incredible, but I obviously didn't play that many times for United. But the one player that was absolutely incredible for me was Eric Cantona. He just, the aura that he had, when he walked into the dressing room, just the aura, just even walking onto the pitch that he possessed. I was fortunate that the two goals that I actually did score for United, he passed me the ball both times. And I remember my debut, for United back in '93. The surreal thing for me around that period was that 18 months previous to that, I was still at school, and here I was making my debut for Man United and playing alongside Mark Hughes and Lee Sharp, Ryan Giggs, Steve Bruce, Pallister, Cantona. A fantastic side, and here I was playing alongside them, and he was incredible to watch in training. The way he trained, he was always doing extra work after training, practicing his finish, and he was an absolute joy to play with. International level as well. We obviously don't produce the players that other countries produce. Steve Davis is just absolutely will go down. For me, in the top three best Northern Ireland players has been, and I'm probably just talking that only George Best and Pat Jennings are above him. That's how good Steve Davis is.
Sorry for coming in there, Bessie, but he almost seems to be very underrated too. We talked to a lot of ex-internationals and current, players day to day what we do, but even with Johnny Tuffy on the show the other night, and he talks about his time in the squad, and Davo does seem to be extremely underrated.
He is without a doubt, because I think if he was at a Man United or a Liverpool or a Man City, people would be absolutely raving about him. We rave about him in this country because we know how good he is, but he doesn't get the recognition he deserves. Certainly at England. I mean, I know he's in Scotland now, but when he got left out at Southampton and he wasn't playing, you're sort of scratching your head, going, how can Steve Davis not get in a Southampton side, because he is that good, and he's such a nice lad. He's a very, very humble lad. But David Haley's another one who obviously enjoyed playing with. I had a great relationship with David on the pitch and off the pitch. So they would be the two at international level.
Yeah, we'll take this last question tonight, folks. We've tried to get through as many as we can, and if I've missed anyone, I apologize about that. Gary Nicholl, I'm deliberately going to take Gary Nicholl because apparently I think I read one of his questions out during the week, and I missed one the other night, so he was tapping my phone today to say, make sure you read my question out. So Gary Nicholl, Keith Gillespie, toughest fullback you've played against in your career?
The toughest in terms of somebody who wanted to kick you was Stuart Pearce. And Stuart Pearce was the type of person who encouraged you to kick him back, so that next time he would kick you even harder. That was the type of person he was. And I was happy then that he actually signed for Newcastle. I got to play alongside him until I realised I had to play against him in training at times, and he would kick lumps out of me. But the best probably was Ashley Cole, because Ashley Cole was quick. He was up and down, and the best way to stop a winger is to push him back away. And Ashley Cole done that time and time again. I never really got the better of him, although probably the last laugh, I did have the last laugh back in 2005 when Healy scored that time. And I think if you see the freeze frame, it's Ashley Cole's face that you can sort of see in sort of shock horror as the ball's going into the back of the net.
Yeah, no, it's funny. It's incredible too, as a winger and pace that you had, and a fullback with pace that he had. It was an incredible battle watching the two of you, But look, Bestie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on tonight. I appreciate you coming on the bank holiday weekend, giving the viewers the time and ourselves here at Experience Epic. We wish you continued success in your career as an agent and with your family. And thank you so much indeed. God bless you, bro.
Cheers. Thanks, Brian. Take it easy.
So, Gary, thank you so much indeed tonight for tuning in again. It's been an incredible week, and again, thank you so much indeed for the encouragement that we have received. We hope that you have enjoyed it. We'll be back again on Tuesday night when we have the former England manager Steve McLaren is going to be coming in and showcasing a little bit about his career, still in management, and just life for Steve McLaren. So, thank you so much indeed. Take care. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.